Picture this. You sit down with a property agent, you open the calculator, and you ask the one question almost every Singaporean is quietly asking right now. How much home can I actually afford? The answer hits differently here than almost anywhere else in the world, because Singapore does not have one housing market. It has two completely separate universes sitting on the same tiny island. One is public, one is private, and most Singaporeans have never had anyone explain clearly which universe their money actually belongs to. A $250,000 home, a $500,000 home, a $1 million home, a $2 million home. Each one puts you in a different world, with different rules, different buyers, and a different life attached to it. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which world your income places you in, what household income unlocks each tier, and who is actually buying at the very top while everyone else argues about cooling measures. Before we go further, here is the backdrop. The Singapore overnight rate average, which underpins most floating rate home loans, sits at around 1.0 to 1.1% as of early 2026. That is close to a cyclical low. But here is the twist. The Monetary Authority of Singapore forces every bank to stress test your loan at 4%, regardless of what you actually pay. That gap between what you pay and what the bank pretends you pay is the single most important number in this entire video, and almost nobody understands it. Let us start at the bottom. A $250,000 home in Singapore in 2026 barely exists on the open market anymore. The median HDB resale flat now costs $652,000, so $250,000 sounds almost mythical, but it still exists, just not where you might expect. This is BTO territory, build-to-order flats. Bought directly from the government before they are even built. 2-room flexi units after grants can start from around $81,000 in select towns. 3-room units in non-mature estates land somewhere between $150,000 and $280,000 after subsidies. To finance a $250,000 flat, the maths is gentle. With a 25% deposit under current HDB rules, you need around $62,500 saved. Your loan of roughly $187,500 taken through HDB's concessionary loan at 2.6% costs you somewhere between $850 and $950 a month. To pass the mortgage servicing ratio rule, which caps your housing payment at 30% of gross income for any HDB or executive condominium purchase, you need a household income of roughly $3,000 to $3,500 a month. A single fresh graduate on an entry-level salary can comfortably clear that bar. But here is the catch nobody puts in the brochure. You are not buying a home today, you are buying a queue number. BTO launches routinely receive 2 to 4 times more applications than units available, and once you are successful, you are waiting 3 to 5 years for construction to finish. The $250,000 dream is real, but it comes with patience as the actual price of admission. Now let us double it. A $500,000 home puts you firmly in the heart of mainstream Singapore. This is the median HDB resale flat. The national median across all resale transactions sits at $628,000, with the typical 4-room flat, the most popular flat type on the island, transacting at a median of $630,000 as of early 2026. But that national figure hides an enormous spread. In Jurong West, a 4-room resale flat has a median price under $540,000. In the central area, that same flat type carries a median of over $1.18 million. That is a gap of more than $600,000 for what is, on paper, an identical flat. Location in Singapore is not a preference. It is a price multiplier. To buy at the $500,000 mark with a 25% deposit, you need $125,000 saved, plus stamp duty and legal costs of roughly $15,000 to $20,000 depending on the transaction. Your loan of $375,000 costs around $1,750 a month under the HDB loan rate, or slightly more through a bank package at market rates. To clear the 30% MSR threshold, your household needs to earn close to $6,000 a month. Here is where it gets genuinely interesting. The median household income in Singapore in 2025 reached $12,446 a month, the first time that figure has ever crossed 12,000. That means the typical Singaporean household is not stretching to afford the typical HDB flat. They are clearing the bar with room to spare. This is precisely why Singapore's home ownership rate sits above 87%. The system for this particular price tier is genuinely working as designed. Then we hit the big one. A $1 million property in Singapore in 2026 sends you down one of two completely different paths. And which path you end up on says everything about your financial position. Path 1 is what locals call the $1 million flat. In 2025, 1,594 HDB resale flats sold above $1 million. Looking at 4-room flats specifically over the past year, 718 transactions cleared 7 figures, representing 6.8% of all 4-room resale deals. These are not penthouses. They are ordinary 4- and 5-room public housing units in mature central locations like Queenstown, Bishan, Toa Payoh, and Bukit Merah, where a 4-room flat now carries a median price north of $810,000 in the most sought-after pockets. You are paying private property money for public housing, purely because of where it sits on the map. Path 2 at the same price point takes you into the private market for the very first time, but only at its absolute entry level. Only the cheapest condominiums in Singapore are now priced under $1 million. New launches in the outside central region start from around $1,200 per square foot, meaning a compact 2-bedroom unit can just about land at this price tag if you choose the right project and the right floor. The financing maths shifts dramatically once you cross into private property, because an entirely different rule applies. HDB and executive condominium loans are capped by the mortgage servicing ratio at 30% of income. Private property financing is governed only by the total debt servicing ratio, capped at 55%. That 25 percentage point gap is not a technicality. It is the single biggest lever in the entire Singapore property system, and it explains why 2 households earning the exact same income can qualify for very different loan amounts depending on whether they are buying public or private. At a $1 million purchase price with a 25% deposit, you need $250,000 in cash or CPF, plus around $40,000 to $50,000 in stamp duty and legal costs. Your loan of $750,000, stress-tested at the mandatory 4% floor, requires a household income in the region of $10,000 to $12,000 a month, depending on existing debt. That is 2 full-time professionals, comfortably above the national median, working together. Finally, we arrive at the $2 million tier, and this is where Singapore's property story stops being about salaries and starts being about something else entirely. $2 million buys you a genuinely premium private condominium. The average condo price across Singapore now sits at $2,128,000, with a median of $1,875,000. Core Central Region resale units, places like Orchard, River Valley, and Marina Bay, transact between $2,200 and $2,800 per square foot. At this price point, you are also crossing into the entry level of landed property. Terrace houses, the most accessible category of landed homes, start around $2 to $4 million, while the broader landed segment, which makes up less than 5% of Singapore's entire housing stock, demands a household income of roughly $21,000 to $27,000 a month just to service the mortgage, before accounting for the significantly higher maintenance costs that come with owning your own land. A study by Value Champion put a sharper number on it. The typical buyer of a landed terrace house in Singapore earns around $34,600 a month. That places them in the top 5% of all income earners on the island. We are talking specialist doctors, chief financial officers, senior legal partners, and business owners, not dual-income professional couples stretching their budget. So who is actually buying at this level and beyond? Almost never 2 people relying purely on salaries. It is business owners drawing income from companies they control. It is senior executives with bonus structures that dwarf their base pay. It is investors leveraging equity from a property they already own outright. And increasingly, it is upgraders, families who bought an HDB flat 15 or 20 years ago, watched it appreciate by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and are now using that locked-in equity as the deposit for the next move up the ladder. And then there is a tier above even this, one most Singaporeans will never personally interact with, but that quietly shapes the very top of the market: the good class bungalow. Only 2,800 of these exist across the entire island, restricted to 39 gazetted zones, and under Singapore law, only citizens are permitted to own one. Entry-level good-class bungalows start around $10 to $15 million. The most prestigious addresses in Nasim, Cluny, and Dalvey transact between $40 and $80 million, with the single highest recorded sale reaching $148 million in late 2025. To pass the bank's affordability test on a $30 million bungalow with no other debt, you would need a provable monthly income of roughly $340,000. Almost nobody clears that bar through a payslip. Most buyers at this level are not assessed on salary at all. They are financed through private banking facilities, the proceeds of a business sale, or wealth that has already compounded for a generation inside a family structure. This is the pattern that repeats at every single tier once you study it closely. A single income buys you a queue number for a BTO flat. A median household income buys you the standard resale flat that most of the country lives in. Two strong salaries stretch you into the entry level of private property. But once you move past that, salary stops being the determining factor entirely. Ownership of an asset, a business, an investment property, equity in something that has already grown, becomes the real currency. Singapore's housing ladder does not punish income. It simply stops rewarding it past a certain rung. Your salary gets taxed and spent the moment it lands in your account. An asset compounds quietly in the background, year after year, often while you are doing something else entirely. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. The fastest way to move up Singapore's housing ladder is not to chase a bigger paycheck at your current job. It is to start owning something, even something small, as early as possible. A modest REIT portfolio funded consistently. A supplementary retirement scheme account used properly. An HDB flat bought early enough that its appreciation becomes your future deposit. Because in a market where the median flat now costs roughly 5 times the median household's annual income, waiting for your salary alone to catch up is not a strategy. It is a bet against the maths. If this helped you understand exactly where you stand in Singapore's property market, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.